So I think we are live now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another live session of Aussizz Group. My name is Prabjot Kaur. I'm a registered migration agent at Aussizz Group Sydney branch. We at Aussizz definitely hope that all our viewers are keeping themselves safe, and in this situation, they are definitely taking precautions as well. Now that we all are waiting for the states to open their nominations and eagerly waiting for them to, send the invitations to our clients and all our viewers who are waiting there, we have news and we'll be discussing on various topics. We know and definitely are aware that bit by bit, each and every states, they are trying to help the migrants and inviting, the migrants as well. Few states have definitely come up with the critical list and have covered health and medical sectors. So today we'll be discussing about various topics, and we have our panel who will be discussing and covering various topics. We have Parth with us from Victoria, who will be discussing and covering Victoria State Nomination 2021. Welcome, Parth.
Thank you, Prabjot.
And then we have Malay with us, who will be discussing and covering a PMSOL and the updated critical skills occupational list. Welcome, Malay.
Thank you, Prabjot.
We have Vishali with us, who will be discussing and covering outer regional South Australia pathway and South Australia DAMA relaxation of rules. Welcome, Vishali. And I believe that you'll also be discussing the essay Talent and Innovators program and additional options for state nominations.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also have today with us Rajan. Welcome, Rajan. And Rajan will be discussing and covering 887 visa.
Thanks, Prabjot.
So I think let's get started with Parth first with Victoria. And we know the situation in Victoria is really bad and critical. So, Parth, do we have good news for our clients and viewers for Victoria nominations?
Yes, Prabjot. Actually, yesterday Victoria announced that they are going to open the. Sorry, not yesterday. I think 2-3 days back they announced that they are going to open the program on. They are going to start the program on 8th of September. So applicants are required to apply expression of interest, and secondly, they are required to submit registration of interest form on 8th of September. So as of now, registration of interest form is not open yet. It will be open on Tuesday, and people who will qualify for this program are people who are actually living in Victoria as of now, people who are working for at least 6 months in Victoria, and the occupation or the work they must be doing, which is the work they are doing must be highly skilled in health or medical research occupation, and that must support economic and health recovery response, the COVID response as of now. So applicants who are living in Victoria, working in Victoria in health sectors are eligible, who has worked for 6 months in Victoria. As part of this program, they are required to submit 2 applications: expression of interest, which anyone can apply now itself, and the second application they have to express their interest will be through a registration of interest form, which will be available on 8th of September, and until it will be open until 21st of September. So anyone can apply during this period of time, and during this process, during this time, Victoria will select right candidates or highly skilled candidates, and they will be invited to apply for Victoria State nomination. Then applicants will be able to formally apply to Victoria State government for state nomination, and they will be invited in due time frame. This program is until 5th of October, until the budget is announced. Once the budget is announced, most likely looks like that Victoria will come up with a new occupation list and maybe possibly new requirements as well.
So we are expecting that they might be changing some sort of requirements, and basically they have considered and focused on the critical sector, medical and healthcare, right, Parth?
Correct.
Okay, and they've also changed the requirements, as in the process, like you have to register yourself first and then apply for the expression of interest, right?
Correct. So earlier, applicants were able to submit expression of interest and a separate application to the state government.
Yes.
And then state was taking around 1 month to 3 months of time to process the application. Now it's like you have to submit expression of interest and a separate application, which is known as registration of interest. And based on the information you provide in that, they will be asking what's the applicant's occupation, the employer's details, that ABN number of the business, the maybe the business name, contact details of the business, and then they will be asking that how that business, how that work is going to support the current situation, health situation due to the COVID and maybe the economic recovery. So that's what the applicant will have to state, or they will have to get a letter from maybe possibly the employer to prove that how their work, how their business operations are related to these critical sectors.
All right, so we definitely have a good news for Victorians. They should get ready and get ready with the applications as well, so that as soon as the nominations are open, they immediately should apply. And then, yes, we have Parth from Victoria. You can contact Parth, and if we have any questions, you can definitely put in, guys, and we'll be taking your questions as well. Then we can, Parth, do you have anything else you would like to add on to this?
I would say that if any applicant is eligible for the program, they should submit expression of interest now itself, and they should keep other documentation ready, which I said that you will have to get business details, and then provide some details about how the business, like what kind of business operations are there. So something like that, you get your details ready. So whenever they open the program on Tuesday, then you can straight away apply. Or if you are eligible, or if you have any questions, you can contact me or any of our Victorian branches, and they should be happy to help you.
And also the registration of interest, what's the date? What's the last date, Parth?
So they are going to start the program on 8th of September, and it will be open until 21st of September, until 5 p.m. 21st of September.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Parth.
Not a problem.
We have with us Milay. Milay, would you please tell us and our viewers as well regarding the PMSOL and the updated critical skills occupational list, and also the, we have heard about the exemptions on the travel as well, if we can cover that as well.
Sure, Prabhjot, thank you. So hi everyone, myself Malay. I am a registered migration agent at Aussizz Group, Brisbane. Like just before a couple of days, department has announced the 17 occupation into the priority migration skill list. So in that 17 occupation, most of the occupations are from the healthcare, construction, and IT sectors, which is like the they have put into the priority list for the help of economic and response of the COVID-19. So as per the visa holders, like who has an occupation of the most of the occupation, which is, as I told before, like the health sector, which is registered nurse or the general practitioner or the medical practitioner, they are coming into the healthcare sector. IT occupations they have covered for the software engineer and developer programmer. And for the engineering occupation, they have covered the construction project manager and the mechanical engineer, as well as the managing director or the CEO as well. So most of the occupation, if you are coming under this occupation, your visa application will be prioritized in the future applications. Most of the states are going to open with the limited quota in next couple of weeks or so. So Victoria has already announced they are going to open on next Tuesday. As past explain all the criteria for the Victoria. We are hoping like other states like the Queensland will be open soon, and NSW has updated the list as update the requirement of they are going to open in upcoming weeks as well. Even they are going to come up with a limited quota for next couple of months until the end of the October for these prioritized occupations. So if you're coming into that occupation, you are able to lodge the state nomination visa application as well as the 189, 190, 491 family and state nominations applications. So if you are coming into that occupation and if you are eligible to apply for any of the visa which I told you, you can come to any of our office and we can help you to lodge the decision ready application, and you may receive an outcome faster as well compared to other occupations. If we talk about the other occupations, they are still their visa will be still processed, but they may have to wait for some more time, as they have not given the priority to the different occupation. So they may have to wait for their visa grant, or to apply for the visa, they have to wait for some more time. And if we talk about the travel exemptions, if you're working in the critical sector like the healthcare or engineering or IT sector, you may eligible to apply for the exemption of, like, if you're working in the particular sector and you went back to the your own country and you stuck there, with the travel restriction, you can come back, and you can apply for the travel exemption as well. You may have to go for the quarantine for 14 days on your own expense. So this is the new update which is released by department before couple of days. So let us know if you are coming into that particular occupation, we can help you to lodge your visa application with the limited quota in upcoming time period. Thank you, Prabhat.
Thanks, Malay. So basically, not just the health or medical, occupations like Victorians, they are concentrating on health and medical, but the new NSW, they have covered engineers and developer programmers and, I should say medical officers, psychiatrists, many occupations they have covered, right? And
Yeah.
with exemptions, like you have mentioned, we knew that the temporary visa holders, they were not allowed to come back to Australia. So there's a definitely good news that if they fall under this these particular occupations, they have this opportunity that they can apply for the travel exemptions.
Yeah.
Right, Malay?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there anything else you would like to add on to this, Malay? Anything which is benefit of our viewers and they would like to know, apart from exemption and these 17 occupations? Have they mentioned anything else as well, Malay?
Most of the things I have covered, but let me tell our viewers, like most of the students has applied for the travel restrictions before as well, and they may got the refusals before, so they can apply again for the travel restrictions if you're coming under these particular sectors. So they may grant their travel restrictions now, and they can come back to Australia and they can go for mandatory quarantine on their own expense, and they may allow you again. So try to apply for the second time if you have got refusal for the travel exemptions before. Like we have received few clients travel exemption recently, which they're coming into that particular occupation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Malay, for your advice. We have now Vishali with us. Vishali, would you mind covering the South Australia pathway and the DAMA relaxations for us, please?
Yeah, sure. I think there are more than one topic to discuss about South Australia today. So maybe I'll begin with the DAMA thing first.
Sure.
So South Australia has been supportive to local businesses through this designated area migration scheme, along with a few other states. And they definitely have an all-inclusive list for DAMA occupations. But again, this time, South Australia has proposed widening the list of occupations that are eligible for this DAMA pathway. Now, just to brief on this pathway, this is a pathway to PR. So it's an employer-sponsored stream based on the labor agreement with the department. It has a wide list of occupations. If the applicants are able to find an occupation and find a sponsor who are willing to nominate them, they will be eligible for a PR visa after 3 years once they work with the same employer for 3 years. Now, the proposed changes, these are just the proposed changes so far, but we definitely expect them to be available soon. One of the big things is they are proposing some additional occupations to be added to the list, which may not be aligned to the regional occupational list or the 494 list, but still they are quite hopeful of adding some low-skilled occupations as well to the list soon. Currently, there are some English concessions available for some of the occupations, but they are available or they're restricted to the first stage. So when the applicant applies for the first stage 482, there are some English concessions available. After 3 years, when they apply for your PR, the concession goes away. So they have proposed these concessions to be carried forward at the PR stage as well, which would benefit majority of the applicants who are struggling with their English score. Again, the current limit of 45 at the PR stage would be increased to 55. There are some concessions for age as well, but most of the times it is restricted to stage 1. So from 50, they have proposed it to be 55. Regarding work experience, so far they have always required 2 years of full-time work experience to be eligible for the first pathway. Now the proposal is to reduce the 2 years experience to 1 year, which would again benefit those who have started working full-time recently or who have not been successful in getting 2 years full-time employment so far. But if they find an employer, if their occupation is on the list, that would benefit local employers as well and the applicants as well. Now, there are some positions where the skill assessment assessment bodies may not be available. For example, truck driver. But then in such cases, the skill assessment will be conducted by the Department of Immigration South Australia itself. So that means those who are in a dilemma, or maybe they would qualify, but because of the unavailability of assessment bodies, there are hindrances that could be sorted out. We are quite hopeful that these potential changes would benefit the DAMA agreement and eventually the local businesses as well. South Australia has always been supportive of local businesses, which once again reflects in their proposal to add 3 different streams for 190 or 491. There is a chance there are many talented people here who have been unable to find a pathway for them, mainly because of not meeting the assessment requirements, or mainly because not having the required qualification here. But then there is an option this time. There may be an option this time after October for high caliber applicants through different employment streams, or maybe small business startup streams. So the recent announcements on 27th of August, it mirrored 3 of such streams. First one is employment stream. This is for businesses who are willing to employ or who are seeking to employ highly talented skilled migrants. Now, more information is definitely not published this time. It would be available somewhere about mid-October. But this pathway would benefit both of them, the skilled applicants as well, and the businesses who are willing to employ talented people. Second pathway will be independent talent stream, where no businesses are involved, but then high caliber applicants who are seeking state nomination will be able to apply through this pathway. Now, we are yet to know what the stream consists of, or what the occupational list for this stream will be, or what will be the requirements. But again, we are waiting for them to publish more information until mid-October. And the third stream will be small business and startup streams, which we think is quite similar to the one that has opened in Queensland. There are opportunities for skilled migrants who have started their own business to apply for a state nomination visa through this pathway. Again, the requirements for the business size or the experience requirements for applicants, if there is any English requirement, it's not yet clear. We are definitely waiting for more information until October. But yes, the employment stream pathways, or the talented innovator programs, this is what is called, is definitely going to help high caliber applicants. And the third one, I think I'll cover the regional pathway for South Australia. Now, this is potentially a great pathway for many applicants who have been living in a regional area or a country region of South Australia. Entire South Australia is regional, but then it is divided into 2 parts, Greater Adelaide and outer regions of South Australia, which means faraway places like Victor Harbour or maybe Whyalla. Now, there are many applicants living in a country region. So the biggest benefit to them this time is that they are going to be prioritized for the state nomination. There are many occupations which will be considered for 190 as well, which was not the case until last year. For example, a few trade occupations which were available only for 491 may be considered for 190, provided the applicants are working in an outer region of South Australia. The first change that they would announce, or we are expecting for them to announce, is the reduction of working hours. SA has indicated that if an applicant is staying and working in a regional area, the work requirement for them will be 15 hours a week or 30 hours a fortnight instead of 20 hours a week, which was the case earlier. Second thing is, if you are living and working in a regional area, and if you are working in the nominated occupation or closely related occupation, you will be prioritized for the invite. Now, this year, South Australia, I think it's until October only, but this year they have brought up a change. You can only submit an EOI, and then you will have to wait until the state picks your EOI, and then you will be allowed to lodge a nomination, the same as WA does, I think. So applicants will be submitting an EOI where they will be indicating if they are living and working in a regional area, how long they are working, which occupation they are working in, and if they are found to be working in the nominated occupation, they will get first priority when the state starts inviting applicants. Second thing, those who are living and working in a regional area but who are not working in the nominated occupation or a closely related occupation or a skilled occupation, If they are working in any occupation for 12 months, they may be considered for 491 visa. So this is a good pathway for those who already have a skill assessment, but who have been unable to obtain a skilled employment or a related skilled employment.
That's definitely a very good news, Vishali.
Exactly. Yeah. So of course, staying in a regional area may have, or an outer region may have its own challenges. But I think we have seen many applicants who have moved to regional areas and who are still progressing well. So I think that's the aim of the government. They want to promote regional areas. They want applicants to be there, contribute to the economy. So live in a regional area, work there for 12 months, any occupation, and you may be considered for 190. And the biggest benefit comes to some occupations, especially in trades. If an applicant is living and working in a regional area, any occupation, not necessarily a skilled one, but if they have worked in that occupation for 12 months, and if they have an assessment or if they have a nominated occupation to be either one in motor trades or construction trades, engineering trades, food trades, which is a good thing. Cook chefs are a part of these food trades. Hairdressers. If you have the nominated occupation in one of them, you may be eligible for 190 as well. So this is indeed a good news for those. Yeah, because hospitality is thriving here, because trade occupations are thriving here. So far, they have always been eligible for 491 or earlier 489 visa. But this year, definitely, they may be considered for 190.
190
yes.
as well. That's
Yes.
definitely a very good news for the trade occupation people, especially chefs. And yeah, definitely, when even clients come to us and they are like, they're a bit reluctant and they don't want to consider regional or 491 visa, and they are we know that they are not sitting on high points, and then it's difficult for them to get 189 or 190, and then that is when we guide them to consider 491. But yeah, South Australia seems to be a very good state now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like lot many occupations. Like it's not just cooks or chefs. It's pastry cooks. It's butchers. It's bakers. It's automotive electricians, sheet metal workers, glaziers. I mean, ample of them. Many of the trades are covered here.
Definitely. I mean, I think October is definitely going to be a very good month, because each and every state, they are considering either September or October, their list to be open on the in October or September. Definitely. I mean, Victoria, they are already they have announced. We heard about ACT as well, to around 10 days ago, that they have also opened up the critical list. And then now South Australia, surprisingly, I mean, I find personally, I find South Australia a very tough state. And because occupations and the people whoever are there, it's really difficult for them to achieve high points, because they look for high points. Or if people are living there, or qualifying or trying to qualify for the regional requirements of South Australia for 491 especially, or 190. But the thing which you have just told about 190 trade occupations is definitely I think it's definitely good news. And the relaxation which you have mentioned, 15 hours, and the relaxation for the age as well, 55, definitely a good news for South Australia.
55 is only proposed under the DAMA agreement, so not for 190 or 491.
Yeah,
it's just a proposal for the DAMA stream, not for 190. But again, those who are working in regional area and those who are not meeting the requirements, let's say if they don't have a skilled job, if they don't have one of the nominated occupations that they have mentioned here, they would still be able to lodge a request for them for the waiver consideration, and it will be decided on a case-by-case basis. They might just need a letter from their employer stating the requirement for this employment, and then there is a chance.
Definitely. Let's hope for the best. Let's see. Uh, with all the states, definitely we and our clients are hoping for the best, because we know that the states, they were like, they had paused. They were not inviting anyone, and each and every client, even my clients, if they were sitting on 90 or 95 points, we are definitely eagerly waiting that let the state open and let them invite our clients, and so that we hear good news for our clients. And with the viewers as well, if they are in South Australia, Victoria, Brisbane, or even in any of the states, we are definitely available for you, and you can approach us. with regards to all types of visas. Vishali, is there anything else you would like to add on to whatever information you have provided to our viewers?
Actually, there was a lot of information to cover when the state announced, but we are not covering all the information. Just to say, there were more relaxations as well, not only for those living in the country region, but those who have been living here for a very long time, let's say 5 years and all. But they were just proposals. Now let's see. We are not confirming any of them right now. They were just they were just indicators. I think they will be finalizing everything only mid-October. So I think it will be better if we left it for October.
Sure, that is exactly why I mentioned that October seems to be a good month for all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Vishali. We also have with us Rajan. And Rajan, if you could please cover 887 visa, that is definitely a good topic to be covered as well, because people who are or who were on 489, they if you can tell our viewers the pathways or how they can apply 887, the basic requirements maybe.
Yeah, certainly, Prabjot. As many people would be aware, 887 is a permanent visa pathway for 489 visa holders. So people who were granted a 489 is no longer current. So they stopped giving 489 visas. I mean, they were still granting them, but nobody could apply for them after 16th of November 2019. But whoever is holding 489, which is a temporary provisional visa, would be able to apply for a permanent visa through this 887 visa pathway. So the basic criteria for 887 is like to get the permanent visa, that you have to fulfill the residence and the work criteria. So the residence criteria is that you have to live in a specified regional area for at least 2 years. Now, I'll come back to the definition of specified regional area because it is different for different people and different for people who were granted the 489 in the family-sponsored stream, different for people who were granted the 489 in the state-sponsored stream, and different for people who were granted visas at different times. But anyway, so you have to fulfill that residence and work criteria. That is common for everybody. So you have to live in the regional area for at least 2 years. Now, those 2 years need not be consecutive. So you could live in a regional area for one year and then go back to your home country for, let's say, 6 months and then come back and spend another 1 year. You would still fulfill that requirement. Obviously, in fulfilling that residence requirement, short holidays outside the regional area would not really matter. Like if you've been living, let's say you go outside, you go to Bali for 2 weeks. I mean, the case officers still wouldn't mind, and they would consider the whole year as you living in a regional area. So the evidence requirement for this criterion would be you could provide rental agreements, mortgage documents or title deeds or school reports, utility bills, your driver's license, and the like. So, I mean, obviously, you could provide whatever other evidence you might have. Some people do not have a driver's license or a utility bill. Then you can even give stat declarations or witness statements. And the other criterion is that you should have worked for at least 1 calendar year in the specified regional area itself. And that work should be full-time. The full-time work is normally under the department's policy is defined as any work which is more than 35 hours per week. And there's no sort of restriction on the type of work that you should be doing. It could be any work whatsoever. So it doesn't need to be in the nominated occupation at the time of 489, or it could be any work whatsoever. You could be self-employed, you could be driving a taxi, you could be working anywhere whatsoever, but you have to satisfy the case officer that you were working for 1 full calendar year and you were working more than 35 hours a week. Now, people who are self-employed, they could provide evidences such as, depending on the work that you do, like if you're driving a taxi, you can take out a record from the taxi company. If you're driving an Uber, you can take out a record of how many hours you were doing during the week. And if you are in a services sector, you could probably give invoices or contracts and the similar evidences. For people who are employed by a company or are working as an employee, the evidence could be pretty straightforward, which is pay slips and your contract of employment. But obviously for people who are self-employed, the evidence could get tricky sometimes, and it is sometimes hard for them to prove that they were actually working more than 35 hours a week. So just be careful with that thing. Now, coming back to the definition of specified regional area, the regional area definition changed last year on 16th of November. So people who were granted the 489 visa under the state-sponsored stream before the 16th of November 2019 would have to satisfy, would have to live in a different regional area than people who were granted the 489 after the 16th of November 2019. It doesn't matter when you applied for the visa. If you were granted the visa before 16th of November 2019, your regional area was much more limited than the people who were granted the visa after 16th of November 2019. Let's say, I'll give you an example for Western Australia. So people who were granted before 16th of November 2019, they had to live outside the Perth metropolitan area, live and work and fulfill that criteria. But people who were granted after the 16th of November 2019, Perth was included in the regional area list as well. So they could live and work in Perth as well, in the city, and still fulfill that regional area, living and working in regional area criterion. But under the family-sponsored stream, the regional area was almost always the same as the one which is now the case with the state-sponsored stream as well, which is the regional area definition after the 16th of November 2019. So people who were granted the visa under family-sponsored stream even before the 16th of November 2019, they could still live in Perth and work in Perth and fulfill that criteria. The other thing that I would like to point out is that although you just have to work for 1 year and live for 2 years, but that doesn't mean that after you fulfill that condition, you go and live start living outside the regional area, because there's another criterion for in 887 where you have to substantially comply with the conditions of your previous temporary visa. Which essentially means that if you were not abiding by the conditions of your 489, you would still not be able to meet the criteria of 887, even though you fulfilled the 2 years residence criteria and the 1 year work requirement. So I would say that keep working in the regional area and keep living in the regional area as long as you haven't applied for the and be granted an 887 visa. And the application fee for this visa is $415, and obviously you could have worked. You could have started your work requirement and residence requirement as soon as you were granted a bridging visa A in relation to the application for the 489. So whenever you fulfill that criteria, you could straight away apply for the 887 visa. Prajwal, I think.
Thank you so much, Rajan. That was indeed a very good information, and you have covered almost everything. So basically, as long as you are satisfying the residential requirement and work requirement, I think it's pretty much easy as well. Is there, do we have, or does an applicant have to fulfill the English requirement as well?
No, the English requirement, if you satisfy the English requirement at the time of 489, that should be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we have covered all the topics, and let's see if we have any questions from our viewers. But if you can show us around, where are we able to see the questions?
Yeah, sure. Before that, I would just like to comment on that 887 English requirement.
Sure.
So generally for 48, like if you are showing that requirements, like if you are meeting the requirements at the time of 489 visa, still it is the requirement that you have to prove that you meet the functional English requirement for 887 visa application as well.
Yes.
So for all applicants over 18 years of age, they are also required to prove that they meet functional English requirement at the time of either 887 application or at the time of decision. So if you haven't
Otherwise, you can pay that extra money and you can
Or-
still meet that criteria.
yeah, or any applicant can
That's
pay,
right.
if they don't meet the English requirement, they can pay the second installment, second visa installment charges, which is approximately 4,865.
That's right.
So for functional English requirement is generally scoring 4.5 bands overall in IELTS, or if applicant have studied in English medium, then they can also get exemption for that, having that taste requirements.
Yeah.
Definitely, yes, functional requirement is there. Let's see if we have questions on Facebook.
Can you see the questions now?
I'm not able to see the questions. Are they available or on your screen part?
Yeah, I'll just start with the first question then.
Sure.
So Anup Upadhyay is asking, does working from home qualify as living and working in regional area? So Rajan, can you answer the question?
Yes, certainly. Yes, as I said, there's no restriction on the type of work that you're doing. So there's no restriction on the amount of money that you're earning. So you can do any sort of work as long as you're putting in the hours. That should suffice. And as long as you're working from the regional area, from inside the regional area, that should suffice. So even if you're driving a taxi, let's say for 35 hours a week, and you're not making more than, let's say, $100, that should be fine as well. So there's no limit on the amount of money that you're earning, but you should be working in a regional area and putting in the number of hours. And you have to prove to the case officer, which could get really tricky sometimes if you're not making a lot of money, that you are putting in $35 and 35 hours a week.
Correct. Okay. The next question is Amrit Atwal is asking, what about ICT business analyst for 189 and 190 visa with 90 and 95 points respectively? What are the chances? Malay, could you please provide some information on that?
Sure. So there is a very good chance with the 90 points in IT occupations. But as we have discussed, like currently they are only inviting the occupation which is coming into the priority list. So there is for next couple of months there is no chances to get an invite with this system analyst or business analyst. But yes, if they will start inviting more applicants after the October, so they may start giving invite 90 points with 90 occupations. Last invitation was issued in March. They have issued March invitation round with the 90 points for the business analyst. So yes, any upcoming round there is a good chance with 90 points.
Correct. Okay, the next question is asked by Satyanarayana Reddy. He's asking, what about software engineer having 75 points for 190? Actually, he hasn't stated which state he's asking about, but I recommend if Vaishali can answer.
Yeah, so as I said, it just depends on what state you are interested in. Now, South Australia, for example, it would require, this year they have proposed that there will be a priority system for 190 applications. If you have worked in South Australia for 12 months, or if you have high points, they would prioritize your application for 190. It once again depends on many factors, what your qualification, what state was your qualification from, or else what other points you have. If you have a chance to move to other states, we don't know what state you are there, but maybe in Victoria also. Now, software engineering is declared one of the critical sectors occupation this time. Now, every state might have a priority for this visa for 190, as long as you are meeting that particular state's requirement, stay requirement, points requirement, and the commitment requirement, the state will be prioritizing your application. In case of NSW, may seem difficult because it has always required people with high points, but a regional area maybe would prioritize you for 190.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vaishali. We have question from Harry Hernurvirk as well. She's asking, what about RN critical care nurses with 75 point for 189 and 80 for 190 on 482? Vishali, would you like to cover that? And maybe 482 if Parth can cover?
Yeah, so critical sector, 75 points for 189. You may have to wait a bit. I think if I remember correctly, last time when the nurses were invited for 189, it was the cutoff was I think 85. There were invitations for lesser points, but it was for family sponsored visa. So family sponsored RN does stand a chance with lesser points, but with 75 for 189, there may be a longer wait. Instead, it's better to go for the 482 if you, as Path will explain, if you have enough experience to qualify for 482, or maybe a 491 pathway or a 190 pathway in your particular state.
Okay. Actually, what I think Harry is asking is about 189 and 190 only. It's just that she's saying that I'm currently on 482 visa. So if you are looking at 190 visa, as Vaishali said that for 189 getting invitation with 875 points, it looks a bit difficult in a way because people are invited with 85 points recently in the last rounds. So you might have to wait maybe for some more months if you're looking at 189. It may be possible that in October onwards, if departments start inviting under all of the categories on all other occupations as well, then it might become difficult for you to get invited. Like recently, you might have seen that they were only inviting applicants under health occupations, and that's where the cutoff even came down to 85 because there are not many people who have 90 points under that occupations. But if departments start inviting people under other occupations as well, it may become difficult to get you invite under 189. But you should definitely, I recommend that you target state sponsored visas, because nowadays you know that most of the states, they are giving preference to people under critical sectors like health sectors. So most of the states, they don't ask for high points under this medical occupations. So even with this many points, 80 points you have very good chances for state nomination. It's just that I'm not sure which state you are living in, because as of now, all the states, they require you to be living in their state and either studying or working in their state. So if you are living in, suppose, Victoria, you are only eligible for Victoria. If you're living in another state, you will be only eligible for that state. So whichever state you are living into, you will have to see what are that state's requirement. Suppose for Victoria, we were saying that Victoria, as of now, they are saying that if you have 6 months of experience in Victoria in that occupation, then you are eligible to apply. And it looks like the department, Victoria state government, they may invite people with even less points, like even maybe 60 points by yourself maybe, and 5 points from the state if they don't get many applicants under these occupations. So I strongly recommend that you should target for 190 visa rather than waiting for 189, because 189 may take long time, or it may be possible that you might not get invite and your EUI may expire, because EUI expires within 2 years of time.
Definitely, Parth. Thank you so much, Vishali. Thank you. But Harry, see, like both of them have mentioned that it depends on the state as well. Could be easy in one state, could be difficult for other state. If you're in ACT, it could be easy for you. You don't even have to achieve 90 points in ACT. So depending on which state you're targeting, depending on for how long have you been living in that state. Because if we talk about ACT, depends if you have been living there for more than 1 year, definitely a very good state. Depends on points as well if we talk about any other state. Now, if you're already on 482, just in case if you're targeting 189 or 190, I would also recommend that if you have an employer who has already sponsored you as a registered nurse, maybe if you complete 3 years with that employer, just in case you're not able to achieve good points, there is a definitely good chance that you can go for 186 as well. So you would have many options depending on which state you're targeting. And also, like I said, if a person is on 482 and has completed 3 years with one employer, definitely has chance to go on 186. Or otherwise, if you have 3 years of experience and you have an employer, definitely you can straight away jump on to 186. So there are two streams, basically transition in 186 and the direct entry as well. So if you have more questions regarding 482, 186 or on a particular state, definitely you're most welcome. Next question is from Giri Soumya. She's saying, I work for Department of Treasury and Finance and Development Programmer role. Can I apply for it? Giri, you have not mentioned the subclass and also the state as well. Well, it's if you're talking about the occupation, then we need to see the degree or the qualification you're holding, whether you'll be able to qualify for particular occupation or not. And then we can specifically answer your question based on the points, your qualification and experience you have, and the requirements for 189, 190, and 491. So if you could please, put us the questions, a specific question would be definitely a great one. Then we have, what would we have Ramesh? Ramesh is asking what about for working full time in aged care as a cleaner in Victoria and living in Victoria? So Parth, would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So he's working under which occupation? Sorry.
He's saying, what about working full time in aged care as a cleaner in Victoria?
Okay. Look, generally, I don't know what's your occupation. That's the first concern. Victoria, they are saying that they are only considering applications from the applicants whose occupation is generally under health sector or medical sector. They haven't actually clarified in detail whether your occupation must be part of that health occupation, or your experience in other occupations, like in health sector occupations, can also be considered. But then when you look at the requirements, they are saying that if you're working under skilled occupations which is relevant to health or medical, then generally it doesn't make you eligible because you're working as a cleaner, even though if your occupation is something else. But if you are working under cleaner occupation, you are not eligible even if you're working under aged care sector. This is generally for people whose occupation is under medical or health or medical research related occupations are generally eligible. So I recommend that you maybe wait for further announcement from them. In case if they have more quota left, something like that, then they may update the requirement. They may let other people also apply. But as of now, it doesn't look like that you are eligible for the program. So you will have to wait, and you also have to see, because I don't know what your occupation is. So see if your occupation is something under health occupations, then you may try and convince how your services are important, and then how it is helping in economic recovery, which cleaner work, like working as a cleaner, make it bit difficult to explain them that you are doing something which is, because this is bit lower level occupation and it doesn't help in a long term goal. So that's what the concern.
Sure. I would also like to, add a few things here, because there are a few clients who are new in the country and they're not aware how the system works. So basically, guys, the thing is that we have to pick and choose the occupation, and that should be on the list. So the department or the government, they have the list of occupations which are in demand. So if cleaner is in demand or in the list, then definitely you will be able to. If not, then probably you'll have to choose another occupation. So this is how it works. And then, we proceed with the PR, format. What are the steps? Are skill assessment, EOI, and then we launch the application once you get the invitation. Another question we have is from Geeta. She's saying PMSOL applicable for already launched 190 visa application. Malay, if you can please answer that.
Yes, it is applicable for the already launched application. As I have said before, like existing applications will be prioritized if you're coming under the PMSL list. If you're not coming into that particular occupation, you may have to wait more until they give more quota to the department. So if you have already launched for the 190 visa, let's suppose for the occupation which is like the marketing specialist or any other occupation, chef or cook, you may have to wait more. But if you're coming into that particular health sector or IT sector or engineering, they will prioritize your application.
Okay, thank you, Malay. We have question from Rahul. Rahul is asking nursing invitation chance better in Perth or Adelaide. Vishali, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure. So I think WA has always had the requirement of being a graduate after having studied 2 years. That has been their major criterion. In Adelaide, of course, there has been a requirement that the applicant must have studied here. I don't know where the applicant has studied from, but according to the new announcements, they may prioritize your application if you have been working here for 12 months, or if you have lived in South Australia for a long time, or if you are working in a regional, an outer region. So it depends. If you have an opportunity to find employment in an outer region, country region, if you have high points, and because it's an RN occupation, there are chances of an invite for 190.
Thank you, Vishali. So definitely there are chances if we have good points. We have another question from Sneha. She's asking, what about 491 Victoria chances for chef?
Sneha, actually, you will have to wait for Victoria to announce the program for other occupations other than health and medical occupations in October. So you will have to wait for October and see what will be the new requirements in case if they update any requirements for Victoria, and accordingly you can see whether you are eligible for the program. But to us, it looks like that most likely the program, the 491 program, is running good for them. So most likely they will be having the same requirements under 491 Victoria State Nomination Program. However, it's not guaranteed for sure. So you'll have to wait until October and see what will be the requirements and whether you are eligible for the program. If you are, then you can apply for the program for sure.
Thank you, Parth. We have another question coming from Summer. So I'm living in regional Victoria and working as an enrolled nurse. Any chance can I apply 491 visa in Victoria because my occupation is in critical list? Please help me with your valuable suggestion. I have only 5 months experience. Parth.
Yes, you are actually eligible. The only issue being, as you already know, the requirements, which is applicant is required to work in Victoria for 6 months of time. So you have worked for 5 months, you are missing 1 month of time. So you may wait for some time because the program is still open. You can still lodge registration of interest application form until 21st of September. So if you're missing few days, something like that, then you can wait until end of the program, 21st of September, and then you can submit. And possibly you can also request the state government, if even by 21st of September you are not meeting the state nomination requirement, you may possibly request the state government to consider the application. If they haven't got sufficient applicants with 6 months of experience and they still have a quota left, there is a possibility that they may consider your application as well.
Sure. Thank you, Parth. We have question from Neha. I have 90 points in accounting field. Is there any scope for 190 or 491 for me anywhere in Australia? Neha, accounting, as we know, it's being so tough for all the clients because they are definitely sitting on high points when it comes to 189, 190, 491. Definitely very hard, but sitting on 90 points, you will have to wait. I would suggest if you work on your points, gain more points by looking for the jobs, look for the experience, and do not TPY. Your English points, try and achieve more than 95 definitely. With 491, if I can talk about New South Wales, if you are able to, crack 491 deal, which is definitely a good one. That is like if you are able to fulfill the criteria of New South Wales regional area, which is the first stream is that live and work in your nominated occupation for 1 year, and then you could be eligible to lodge 491. Well, New South Wales, they know that they had never opened 491, but in June only for 10 days they had opened 491, and they had opened with the same condition. And the second stream, which was live and study for 2 years in regional areas. So they had opened with both the streams, with the same conditions, but they had changed overnight. Why? Because they might not have received the applications or the expected number of applications. So they had changed. And they said, fine, if you're just living in regional area, doesn't matter if you don't have the experience. They were, inviting the applications. So with accountants, I would suggest try and work on your points. If you are able to move to regional, if you are in New South Wales, definitely try and move to regional and try to fulfill the regional area criteria. With 190, 90 points is definitely, like I mentioned before, it's going to be really, really tough and you will have to wait long. So points is the key to get the PR in New South Wales. Other states as well, we have discussed that points definitely they do matter, and you, like I've mentioned, work on your English, do PY, NATI, get the experience. If you're single, fine. If you have partner, then get the assessment for your partner as well. So I hope I've answered your question. We have another question for Parth, Melbourne. We are receiving so many questions from Melbourne and Victoria. So Ahmed is asking 90 points, other engineering professionals, Victoria, Melbourne. What are the chances for 189 or 190?
For 189, if you have 90 points as of now, you might have seen that department have invited applicants under January end with 90 points. So if you have 90 points, if you have applied within few months of time, it's possible that you may receive invitation before next financial year. Most likely because there is still waiting of 8-9 months, because people are waiting since February with even 90 points. So that's a bit tricky. And if you're looking at 190 Victoria State sponsorship requirements, as of now, it's only they are only sponsoring applicants under specific occupations, health occupations. So you are not eligible as of now, but most likely in October, if they come up with other occupation list having engineering occupations on the list, and if whatever requirements are, if you are meeting their requirements, you could possibly apply. Generally, Victoria, whenever they sponsor applicants, they generally says that they either require applicants who have 5 years of experience, or that 5 years of experience can be from overseas, from Australia, but generally it should be post qualification. And the second possible option they say is, if any applicant is a recent graduate of Australia, that means if you have completed study within last 2 years anywhere in Australia, and that study must be relevant to engineering. If it is, if you have a job offer in Victoria for at least 6 months, part-time or full-time, in relevant occupation, then Victoria can sponsor applicants with even 60 points for 190 program. But that is, this requirements I'm talking about, that is for last financial year. This financial year, they haven't announced the program yet. So maybe in October, if they keep the same requirement, see if you're eligible that way. If not, if they have updated the requirements and if you're meeting that requirements, then you may be possibly able to apply.
Thank you, Parth. We have another question from Muhammad Ali. He's saying 90 points for 189 and 95 for 190 New South Wales. What are the chances in October after the budget? Mohammed, thank you for the question. Mohammed, you have not mentioned your occupation. Depends on the occupation as well. Depends on, like I've mentioned before as well, on your points. Well, 95 points, depending on the occupation, you could have a good chance, definitely. Like in June, 190, as far as I remember, top of my head, like developer programmer, they had gone on 90 points. So could be a very good chance for you if they open again in October. But definitely occupation plays a good role, because if you are an accountant, then you will have to wait. Other occupations, if you're 95, you will have definitely a good chance. Rahul is asking which state is the best to apply for nursing. Rahul, thank you for the question. Like all of us we have mentioned that depends on the state. Points definitely is the key. Nursing, these days, definitely it's a good occupation and is available in most of the states as well. Depends on the points, but we know that ACT, they have come up with the critical list. They have mentioned all types of nurses, even medical, NEC, the aged care, all the nurses. If you're in ACT, perfect, good chances. Victoria, South Australia, Vishali has covered already. So nursing definitely has a good chance. Muhammad Ali is asking motor mechanic 90 points for 189 and 95 for 190 New South Wales, working in my occupation in Sydney. Okay, Mohammed, Sydney, we have covered again. So motor mechanic with 95 points, I would say you have a good chance. So let's see when New South Wales open and starts to invite people. I would say wait and watch, because with 95 points, I would say a good chance with regards to New South Wales list. So we have other question. What about a cook for 491 working in regional in Victoria but not living in regional? Rakesh is asking this question, Parth.
Yeah, sure. Rakesh, for 491, their requirements are not that you must be living as well in regional Victoria. So as long as you are working in regional Victoria, you can apply, but not now. Most likely in October when they open the program, and if you meet the requirement, whatever the new requirements are. If we look at the last year's requirement, they don't particularly say that you must be living in the same area where you are working. So you can be living in Victoria, like city like Melbourne, and then if you're traveling everyday basis, something like that, that's also fine. It's just that if it is far away, then it may create a problem in a way that when Victoria look at your application, they may think that how is it possible that you are traveling every day for 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers, something like that. If it is nearby, then it should be fine. Otherwise, they may come back and ask that, okay, prove that, or how is it possible for you, or why is it that you are traveling every day to work, go and work, because you are required to work full time when in considering that the last year's requirement. But anyway, you'll have to wait for October and see what will be the new requirements, and accordingly you can apply for the state nomination program.
Thank you, Parth. I have another question coming for you. So we've got so many clients who are living in Victoria. Okay, so we have question from Tilak. He's asking about Victoria 491. Can you give us some information about electronics engineering with 491 family visa, and how to have skill assessment done of Indian degree bachelor's electronics and communication? I did master's in business analytics, but chances are not good as electrician engineer, electronics engineer, I think he wants to say.
Okay. So look, if you wanted to get a skills assessment under engineering occupations, the skills assessment authority for engineering occupations is Engineers Australia. And they generally says that you must have a qualification which is at least at a level of bachelor's, Australian bachelor's degree. And that must be for at least 3 years to 4 years. If it is 3 years degree, you can possibly get a skills assessment under the occupation engineering technologist. And if you have a degree for 4 years of time, then you may be possibly able to get a skills assessment under electronics or electrical or telecommunication engineering category. Now, when you look at the basic requirements, their requirements are having a qualification, as I said. Second requirement they ask for is at least 6 bents in each of the 4 modules of IELTS or equivalent score in PT exam. If you have completed 2 years of study in Australia, master's level study, suppose, then you get exemption for the English requirement. So you don't have to actually appear for the English test because you already completed master's. Even if it is in IT, it's still fine. And thirdly, they require you to write down 3 project reports. The wording, they call it as a CDR, competency demonstration report, where you have to explain 3 project reports, 3 practical work which you have done, that can be part of your degree itself, or suppose you have completed any internship, any experience, anything which is engineering problems you have solved. You will have to explain 3 such engineering problems. You'll have to explain that what you have done at that time. That is called as career episode. So you have to write down 3 project reports. There is one more document which is known as summary statement. You have to summarize that 3 reports in a standard format. They have a format in which you will have to explain how you achieved particular engineering skills. And 5th document is CPD letter, which is a continuous professional development letter. So you'll have to prove that after completing your study bachelor, suppose you continuously improved your skills in the same profession. So you will say, suppose if you have got some experience, or you got master's degree, or you got internships, something like that, you can mention all that to prove that, okay, you have been continuously in the field. That are the 3 basic requirements in order to get a skills assessment. This is when your qualification is not accredited qualification through Engineers Australia, or if it is not accredited under Washington Accord, Dublin Accord, or Sydney Accord. So they have total 3 accords: Washington Accord, Sydney Accord, and Dublin Accord. So if your qualification, you may see that if your qualification is accredited under any of this accord, you don't have to do that CDR, competency demonstration requirement. That requirement you don't have to meet. You just meet that your qualification is accredited by the relevant authority, relevant accord, and then you can apply under that accord straight away. So that may be easier, but you'll have to see whether your qualification is accredited under that categories. Otherwise, you'll have to start with your CDR. That's the first thing. And when you look at the family sponsorship, you need a relative up to first cousin living in regional Australia. As of now, other than Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, that is part of anything other than these 3 cities are part of regional area. There are some suburbs even in these cities. You may see some suburbs, outer suburbs, you will see that are also part of regional areas. So if you have any relative living in that areas, if they are permanent residents or citizens of Australia, or if they are eligible New Zealand citizen, they can sponsor you for this 491 program as well. where department they are selecting people, they have selected people who were having 70 points by themselves plus 15 points from your relatives. So altogether 85 points if you have, then consider you will have good chances. But that is also after October most likely, because as of now, if you have seen department, they are inviting under critical, like the health related occupations only under the 491 family sponsorship. So possibly wait until October, and then in the meantime I would recommend you to get some higher points. In the meantime, you get your skills assessment. So whenever they start the program, they get quota, they start inviting people under other occupations, then you'll have good chance. Target for 75 points or more, because they are selecting people who have 70. If you have more points, then you will be selected early. Otherwise, as of now, people who were having 70 points, I think they have been invited, if they have applied their EUI with 70 points by themselves plus 15 points from relative, that is altogether 85. If they applied in, I guess, March or before that, then they were all selected. So try for 5 more points, then it might be quicker for you to get invite.
Thank you, Parth. That indeed was a very good information. Vishali, we have a question for you. Mohammed Raat Rashid is asking, in South Australia, 95 points accounting. Any chances after October for 189?
So okay, so if it is for 189, of course, it doesn't have to relate to South Australia. Now let's see, accountants, as we talked last time, they have been allocated a very limited quota. So it stays a challenge. It depends on what date you submitted your EOI and what has been the cutoff date when they pick the applications. There is a chance, not a very good, but still, yeah, there may be a chance after October for 189. If you're talking about South Australia, if you have been living in South Australia, the regional pathway may come to your rescue only if you are working in an outer region. As you said, if you have been living there for 12 months, working as an accountant in an outer region, you may be prioritized for an accounting invitation, but it depends. We will have to wait until October when the state publishes new announcements. 189, it definitely is a challenge.
Thank you, Vaishali. Definitely, as we all know that accountants are sitting on 5 points and try to touch 100. Definitely, I know that's sometimes it feels next to impossible, but that is the fact. And 95 point plus or 100 is the only thing we can say to accountants. Parth, we have question for you again. So Satish is asking 190 state nomination, state Victoria, points 90. Occupation developer programmer, EOI last updated July 2020. What are the chances of invitation for developer programmer? Do you recommend me to get skill assessment, skill assessed for software engineer as well, or developer programmer should be fine? Thanks.
Okay, so look, generally, if you're looking at 189 invitation, if you're having a skills assessment under developer programmer or analyst programmer or a software engineer, it's the same occupation category. That's where generally when you apply for 189 visa, like the EUI, invitation generally comes under the same category. That's where if you are going to get another skills assessment, it doesn't actually helps you. You already have a skills assessment, it doesn't help you actually. So you better stick with the same occupation developer programmer and wait for the invitation. If you are targeting maybe state sponsored visas, and if state is saying that we are only sponsoring suppose software engineer, then you might have to get skills assessment under another occupation. Otherwise for 189 visa, it doesn't make any difference as such. So I recommend you to have this assessment, developer programmer assessment. It should be fine for you.
Thank you, Parth. Again, we have a question for Victoria. Amanat Kaur, she's saying, I'm a registered nurse in Victoria, but I have just 3 months experience as RN. Can I apply for 190 or not?
Look, if you look at the requirements, it clearly states that you must have at least 6 months of experience. If you don't have that, you are not eligible. If you wanted to take a chance, you can apply. There is no harm in a way applying. But it's like you are misusing the program in a way. But then that's fine. You can apply for expression of interest and you can register your interest. Possibly, you never know, whatever the quota they have been given, if they don't receive that many applications, then it's possible that they may select people even having lesser experience. So that way, I think there is no harm applying for the expression of interest if they are anyway getting people who have 6 months of experience, because they will be able to see that in expression of interest anyway. So if they already have sufficient people having 6 months of experience and they can fulfill the quota with that, then they are not going to invite you, but you are not losing anything that way. So I maybe possibly recommend that you better apply for it.
Okay, thank you so much, Parth, and thank you all of you, Vishali, Parth, Millay, Rajan, for 887 information as well. I think we have covered most of the questions, and most of the questions I think are coming for Victoria because of the whatever information we have provided to our viewers, and because of the current news we have received from the department. So, if any of you who are interested to know more or want to get more information from us from Brisbane, Sydney or Perth or any part of Australia, we are definitely, our branches are all over Australia and we are happy to help you. And that's it for today. And I hope everyone keep yourself safe and take precautions. And bye bye for now. Thank you, everyone.